Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the NBA slate on DraftKings for Wednesday, December the 19th. We do have a big 12-game slate for this Wednesday. Should be an awesome slate. There are a lot of studs on this 12-gamer. We got AD, Harden, Giannis, Westbrook, Embiid, Towns, Blake Griffin, Curry. Just an awesome slate. It's going to be a lot of games, a lot of players to talk about. So I don't want to waste any time. Just before we do get started, I would appreciate if you would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. But let's go ahead and look at point guard for today. So our two options over 10K are Harden and Westbrook, both in great spots. Harden gets a matchup at home against the Wizards, Westbrook on the road against the Kings. And although I think Harden and Westbrook are both great plays today, it's hard for me to prioritize them over Anthony Davis and maybe even over Giannis. Right now, AD is my favorite stud on the slate. Without Julius Randle and without Nikola Mirotic, I expect AD to just have to do so much for this Pelicans team. I'm expecting him to get at least probably 25, 30 points and definitely at least 10 to 15 rebounds. You take Randle off the court, so many rebounds that Randle gets now should go to AD. Obviously, Randle takes shots as well, and some of those shots should go AD's way. I'm expecting a monster game out of Anthony Davis, and it's going to be hard for me to avoid him on the slate. But if a lot of value opens up and I can pay up for two studs, I'm sure I'll have some lineups where I have AD and Harden or AD and Westbrook. And even lineups where I don't have AD, I'll probably have in some Harden and Westbrook. I like both guys. If I had to pick one, I think I'd roll with Harden. I think he's my preferred option, but really can't go wrong with either. But point guard's probably a position we can go to the mid-range. If you don't want to pay up, maybe a guy like Kyrie Irving against the Suns. Great spot there for him. You got Ben Simmons at home against the Knicks. Devin Booker, even though it's a tough matchup against the Celtics, Devin Booker always seems to play well against the Celtics. Booker's just such a high-usage player, even 8,700 in a tough matchup. I don't mind paying this price tag for him. Early this year, put up a 60-burger against the Celtics, played 42 minutes. Last game against the Knicks, 37 minutes, 54 DraftKings points. Now that Booker's back and healthy, we're getting 36 to 38 minutes a night out of him. High-usage player, going to take a ton of shots, going to grab some rebounds, will pick up some assists as well. Even in a tough matchup, if Devin Booker's going to be low-owned today, I like him a lot. Also, Jrue Holiday should see a lot of usage with Randle and Mirotic both off the court for this game and both out for this game. We're going to see we're going to see Holiday and AD do a lot of heavy lifting for the Pelicans. Those two guys are going to really have to carry this team today against the Bucks if they want to win this game. So Jrue Holiday, 8,600. I probably would play him over Devin Booker, especially in cash games and tournaments. I think both guys have upside. Jrue Holiday might be the safer play, but both guys have upside, like both guys for tournaments. But Jrue Holiday at 8,600, I expect to just have to do so much today, and I do like him in the mid-range as well. And then if we're going a little bit cheaper, and if you may want to go down 7K and below, I think Derrick Rose is really just a guy that stands out to me today. He's 6,700. We do already know that Jeff Teague is out for this game. So Derrick Rose is going to start, and if this game is competitive against the Pistons, which it should be, we should get about 34 to 35 minutes out of Derrick Rose. He only played 24 minutes in the last game against the Kings because that game was a blowout. The Timberwolves won that game by 27 points. Even in 24 minutes against the Kings, we still got 33 DraftKings points out of Derrick Rose. Got a double-double, 13, 2, and 11. Like I said, if this game stays competitive, we should get 34 to 35 minutes out of Derrick Rose. When he starts, he's a pretty good point-per-minute producer. If he plays that amount of minutes, should get close to 40 DraftKings points. And just looks like a really good play, slightly underpriced with Jeff Teague out. Have a lot of interest in Derrick Rose today at 6,700. De'Aaron Fox is right there in price at 7K, and I do like De'Aaron Fox a lot here against OKC, but I feel a little bit safer going with Derrick Rose. I think both guys are great plays, though, if you're going to that mid-range. And then if we want to talk about some value here, Dennis Schroeder just still feels like a guy you can play pretty much every day when he's this cheap. 5,500, especially against the Kings. Don't mind Dennis Schroeder here as just a price play. But value-wise, Tim Frazier to see a little bit more usage, take Mirotic and Randle off the court. Don't mind Tim Frazier, but not a priority for me on the slate. Not a guy I'm going to have massive exposure to. Depending on if depending on if Kyle Lowry, if Lowry is out today, he's questionable right now. If he's out, Fred VanVleet, 4,900 expected to play. Could be a good value if you want to go there. Maybe Alec Burks if Jordan Clarkson misses. Clarkson did sit On Tuesday night, Burks sees a little bit of a bump when Clarkson is out. If we get Clarkson out again today, you could go to Alec Burks at 4,100. I don't mind him, but that's probably it for this position. I guess one more play. Mike Conley, he's a key injury to watch. Mike Conley is questionable, and if Mike Conley were to miss, we could go to SHELVIN MACK, who is only 3,700. Probably would be one of the top values on the slate if Mike Conley were to miss. Should play about 30 minutes if this game is competitive. Only 26 minutes that game his last game against the Warriors. He did start for Conley in that game, but the game did blow out. Warriors won by 17 points. I expect 30 minutes out of SHELVIN MACK here if Mike Conley is out, and he would be a really good value play if Conley were to miss. But it's news we're going to have to wait and see on Wednesday what we get, the status of Conley. But let's move on to shooting guard now. So this position's kind of just like the guys I've already talked about. If you can pay up for Harden here, I do like him. Booker and Holiday, I both like a lot in that 8K range. You can play Derrick Rose at shooting guard, who I obviously like a lot. I think there's some other guys that are shooting guard eligible that I've talked about. Dennis Schroeder, 5,500, definitely a guy you could go to. But there really aren't a ton of plays that stand out to me. Maybe like a Rodney Hood, if Clarkson were to miss again, we could go there. But like I said, not a lot stands out here. You got Alec Burks, who you could play here if Clarkson were to miss again. But shooting guards, just kind of the same guys I've already talked about, are the guys I'm looking to at this position. Definitely a key injury to watch from the Kings side is Iman Shumpert and Bogdanovich. Both of them are questionable. If both of them were to miss, De'Aaron Fox should see a little bit of a bump. Potentially Justin Jackson would move into the starting lineup. I know he's not the most sexy play. I think he is shooting guard eligible, though. He's small forward and power forward eligible. If Bogdanovich and Shumpert were both to miss, Justin Jackson, 3,300, could potentially be a value, but he's small forward eligible. But could go there, but I feel like at least one of Shumpert and Bogdanovich is going to play, if not both of them. So that's probably it for shooting guard. Pretty quick. It's kind of the guys I've already talked about that I really like at this position. So let's move on to small forward now. This is definitely a position I like the top here. Like Giannis a lot today. I prefer him over Westbrook and over Harden, but really can't go wrong with any of those three guys. Like I said, AD is my favorite out of the top studs, but I'll still have some Giannis today, especially if a lot of value opens up. And maybe if I can game stack this game, I'll have some lineups where I have AD and Giannis together. Just feel like this game is going to be a game we want to target. Two teams that play fast, two teams that have been struggling defensively. At least the Pelicans have this year. Pelicans have struggled defensively a lot as a team. With how much usage there is to go around on the Pelicans side, I obviously want to go to some of the players on that side. But Giannis from the Bucks, can't go wrong here, 11-1. Don't mind him at all today if you can pay up for him at small forward. But there is some value I like at this position. We'll talk about the mid-range before we get to the value. If you're not paying up for Giannis, I think Kawhi is worth paying up for today as long as Kyle Lowry is out. If Lowry plays, I really don't have a ton of interest in Kawhi. But if Lowry is out again, we could definitely go to Kawhi at 9,200. In the mid-range, though, like in the 5K range, there really isn't a lot I see. But when we get down here, 6K and below, definitely some value opens up that I like. Robert Covington, just a guy that's going to play massive minutes. 5,200 still seems a little bit underpriced for the minutes he's going to play on a nightly basis. But sub 5K is where I see multiple plays I really like. First off, Nemanja Bjelica, 4,800, burned everybody in their last game. In the Kings' last game, he only played 5 minutes against the Timberwolves. Pretty much all the Kings starters played about 5 to 10 minutes because they got absolutely blown out. I'd expect the Kings starters are going to get back to their normal minutes here. If this game could stay competitive against OKC, we should get about 25 to 30 minutes out of Bjelica. With Marvin Bagley still out, Bjelica's minutes are very safe, or at least safer than they were in the past. If Bjelica's playing well, he's going to get 30-plus minutes, most likely. At 4,800, he still remains too cheap if he's going to play the amount of minutes that I expect him to play. So I like him a lot. If people are going to shy away from him because he burned everyone in the last game, I'm definitely going to be loading up on Bjelica. One of the things when it comes to playing DFS, you got to have a short memory. If a guy burns you, don't get mad about it. Just if he's a good play the next day, you just play him. And that's the case today with Bjelica. He burned everybody last slate. He's a good play again because he's only 4,800. He's still too cheap. So I'll be going right back to the well. Small forward and power forward eligible. Probably one of the top values again on the slate, under 5K. But another guy that I like at this position as a really good value play, at least I think he's a good value play, is Trevor ARIZA. 4,500 with the Wizards now. ARIZA did make his season debut on Tuesday. I'm recording this video about halftime of that game between the Wizards and the Hawks. ARIZA's having a really good half. He's playing big minutes, and that's what I expect from ARIZA. He's going to play big minutes on a nightly basis. It also is a revenge game going up against his former team, or at least his former team in the Rockets. So ARIZA at 4,500, just a really good play. Getting the amount of minutes I project him to play. He's too cheap in my opinion. He's going to be needed here defensively as well. ARIZA's a solid defender. They're going to need him to guard James Harden, going to need him to guard CP3. So really like Trevor Ariza, especially with how safe I feel about his minutes. Seeing him play pretty nice minutes on Tuesday night makes me feel confident that just the Wizards are going to roll him out there playing 35 to 40 minutes a night like he's always done. Don't really have any worries about that. So love Trevor Ariza as a value play, small forward and power forward eligible as well. But now sub 4K, like cheap punt plays, I think with the Mirotić and Randall news, that could potentially open up some value. Let's pull up the Pelicans players real quick, their small forwards and power forwards, or just their forwards in general. So we know Randall and Mirotić both out. Obviously AD is going to see a monster boost, but definitely could open up value. Check Diallo, really saw his price increase up to 4,500. Diallo's always been a good point per minute player, but we just never know what the minutes are going to be. I imagine he probably does not start. I say Diallo most likely comes off the bench and probably plays around 20 minutes. Could definitely put up about 25 DraftKings points. I don't really know if I want to pay 4,500 for Check Diallo though. If he was still 3K, he'd probably be one of the top values. But DraftKings was quick to adjust his price up to 4,500, so I don't think he's really necessary on the slate. I think Solomon Hill's probably the best value play from the Pelicans. He's still under 4K. He's still dirt cheap at 3,900. I'd expect he plays about 32 to 34 minutes here. On 3,900 against the Bucks, Hill can defend, so they're probably going to put him on Giannis some, and I imagine he gets about 34 minutes and about 25 DraftKings points, so definitely is a good value if you want to go to him. Definitely don't want my night to rely on Solomon Hill, so I wouldn't be a guy that I'd play or I'd go all in on, but 3,900, definitely a value play I'll have some exposure to. I'll have in some lineups, but not going to let my night rely on Solomon Hill. But that's kind of how I'm looking at the Pelicans today. Mostly want to play Hill. I guess you could go to Diallo or maybe like Wes Johnson or Darius Miller, but I think Hill's probably the guy I prefer there if you're going to try and find some value from that team. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for small forward and the value plays. You do have Etuan Moore from the Pelicans, who could be a value, but don't really know what we're going to get from him. And at 4,600, I'd rather play Bjelica. I'd rather play Ariza over Etuan Moore. So let's move on to power forward now. Definitely a loaded position. Got some good studs at the top. Like some mid-tier plays here as well. But the studs, AD, Giannis, definitely want to pay up for AD specifically. Just expect him to see monster usage. Take Randall and Mirotić off the court. Anthony Davis just going to have to do so much for this Pelicans team. I expect he has to take a ton of shots here. He's going to have the opportunity to grab so many rebounds. Would not be surprised if we get like a massive 30-point, 20-rebound game out of Anthony Davis. Maybe even something better than that, like that 44-point, 18-rebound game against OKC he put up a couple games ago. I would not be surprised if we get a similar performance here against a Bucks team that plays really fast. Love this game. Two teams that play fast. And it just should be a high-scoring game, a great game to target for fantasy. Anthony Davis, my top stud on the slate, going to have him in a ton of lineups. Would not be surprised if he's the highest-scoring player on the slate. So love AD at power forward. Obviously like Giannis as well, but I do prefer AD. Just talking about one-on-one between those two guys. But now let's go to the mid-range. Another guy I really like here is Larry Nance. Pretty high on him on Tuesday's slate. Looking like it's going to do pretty well. Nance is having a pretty big game, and the Cavs did finally announce that they were going to start Larry Nance. They started him on Tuesday, and I imagine they continue to do that here against the Hornets. So if we're going to get Larry Nance starting again, he's going to play massive minutes, 35, 36 minutes. Has always been a good point-per-minute player. He's going to probably put up 36, 37 DraftKings points, maybe even more here. On his 6,300, he still remains too cheap. Easily could get 6x. I would honestly be surprised if Nance doesn't hit 6x value. So he still stands out to me at 6,300 on DraftKings. He's still power forward and center eligible, so one of my favorite plays along with some of the other guys I've talked about. My core for today, really like this core. I think it could do really, really well. But yeah, let's look at some other power forwards besides the mid-range plays and Nance, maybe some value here. If you do want to go cheap, there really isn't a lot of value that I love at this position. Maybe like a Markieff Morris against the Rockets, but not really the most attractive play even though he's cheap. Just probably not a position I'm going to be going cheap at. I like paying up for AD. I like Nance a lot. You can play Bielitsa here. You can play ARIZA here. These are the kind of guys I'm targeting at this position. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and move on to center now. So at the top of the center position, we got Embiid at home against the Knicks. Just a great spot for Joel Embiid. He is 10,200, so he is a little bit cheaper than some of the top guys like AD, Giannis, Harden, Westbrook. He's about $800 to $1,000 cheaper than those guys. I do like this spot a lot for Embiid. I'm going to have some exposure to Embiid. Will I play him over Anthony Davis? Most likely not. Still prefer Davis there. But will I have some lineups with AD and Embiid together if enough value opens up? We'll most likely try and do that. I expect Embiid plays massive minutes here if this game is competitive. I'd probably say he scores about 55 to 60 DraftKings points most nights in this matchup. So I do like paying up for Embiid. If I am going to pay up at center and not play Anthony Davis, Embiid would be the guy I would target. Like Griffin, Drummond, Towns, don't really have a ton of interest. Vucevic, LMA, not really going to be playing these guys. Mostly going to be looking at Embiid and Davis at the top here. Then if I'm not going to those two guys, probably going to go to a guy like Clint Capella. Great spot for Clint Capella against a bad Wizards team that can't rebound, that can't defend. This could be a monster game for Clint Capella, or a monster game could be coming for Clint Capella in this spot. So he is probably one of my favorite plays in that mid-range if you're not paying up for the top guys. But other mid-range plays, not a ton stands out to me. You can play Nance in the mid-range at 6,300, who I obviously like a lot. Draymond Green seems underpriced, but he just hasn't been playing that well lately. I'd honestly would rather play Larry Nance over Draymond Green today. Value at center is pretty thin. Maybe a guy like Jarrett Allen we could go back to at 5,500, but Allen's always been a guy that's been very inconsistent. I played a decent amount of him on Tuesday night. Not really sure how it's going, but Jarrett Allen, even in a good matchup against the Bulls, I wouldn't have that much exposure to him. Probably would limit it. 5 to 10% of Jarrett Allen's probably enough for me today. Don't need to go too crazy there. But I think that's it for center, guys. I think that is it for the video. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed the video, just make sure you click that like button down below. I would appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave any comments down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT. But yeah, guys, good luck tonight on this big 12-game slate. Hopefully I will see you back in the next video. Peace.